everybody, and thank you for joining us today. We're very excited to have three co-founders from the digital health industry, from telehealth and telemedicine platforms in different areas. Very excited to have them join us today as we talk about the digitalization of the healthcare industry. Obviously, some different challenges and adoptions and technical advancements that are taking place with COVID and the pandemic, and how that is going to continue to help shape the industry as a whole. And we're very excited to have Itai Gafni from the co-founder of LayerJot. We have Ofer Ben Shakor, who's the co-founder of Health Outcome. And we have Vlad Tutov, who's the co-founder of Bikecovery. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We're very excited to chat with you and get your insights and experiences and expertise in the digital healthcare industry and what's taking place. So let's start off very high level. Tell us a little bit about your product and the team behind the product. Itai, if you would like to start and share with us a little bit about your company and the product that you guys bring to market.
Sure. So LayerJot mission is to empower people to do manual tasks better, faster, and safer. And we found a very interesting niche in the medical space where a lot of the activities around practicing the medicine, everything around instrument preparation for surgeries or procedures, things around inventory, instruments that need to be tracked, all of these things are done currently very manually or through checklists. And we develop technologies that we call it digital scene understanding, that use computer vision, RFID, and other sensors to be able to understand the surrounding of the person. So we developed things that help people to prepare trays, for example, for surgery, be able to count instruments to make sure nothing was left in the patient after the surgery is complete, and things like that. So we're augmenting people's capability, their dexterity, their other kind of advantages that only human have, with a lot of digital content and feedback. So our motto is guide and verify. So we're trying to help people, guide them through their task and verify they did it correctly and safely.
Very cool. Ofer, how about you and Health Outcome?
Yeah, so what we do is we really provide an online physical therapy and exercise program. This is mainly tailored at chronic orthopedic patients like lower back pain, neck pain, etc. And the program starts with answering a very detailed diagnostic and outcome questionnaire. You then are paired with a actually live physical therapist, and the physical therapist gives you videos that were professionally done with the help of our medical team. As well as you have secure messages, daily progress report, and continue to update your health. The program is used mainly, it's used now by hundreds of people, very high satisfaction rate, and essentially clinics are now offering, mainly orthopedic clinics and some general practice clinics are offering that to their patients, and there's a revenue share there as well, where the clinics share some of the revenue from the patient, and the actual program is branded under the clinic name. So for the patient, it looks like part of the clinic service. We also, we measure detailed outcomes, so we can see already a very nice improvement in health in our patient, and we have a lot of other people answering our questionnaire, so we can compare it to the general crowd. And typical patient on our platform improve about 50% in 3 months, and on the rest of the crowd about 10%. So we're very happy with it.
Some great numbers. And Vlad, how about Bikecovery? Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, sure. So Bikecovery is a platform that empowers people with bipolar disorder. And basically this platform gives these people control over upcoming crises, either upcoming maniac or depressive state. And at the same time, this platform is available for their caregivers who are willing to know if something wrong is happening with their relatives. And the third part is doctors, basically healthcare professionals, psychiatrists that are working with patients with bipolar disorder. And I see my video is jumping. Sorry. At the same time, doctor has 24/7 visibility of what is happening with the patient, and we provide such visibility based on 20 up to 23 different parameters, going from mobile phone usage of the patient and also his wearable device, either some wristband or smartwatch that provides basic measurements of heartbeat rate, steps count, activities, and before that, psychiatrists didn't have any real data, especially continuous data from his patients. And right now we allow them to have continuous monitoring and alerts when system detects upcoming crises.
Very, very cool. Three very, very interesting platforms. Excited to learn a little bit more about them today. Obviously, the health industry is facing some very different and unique challenges today. Share with us how COVID has changed your work. Itai, if you'd like to go first. And for anybody who's joined the chat, if you'd like to introduce yourself in the chat room, so you can say hello and we can see who's joined, that would be great.
Yeah. So COVID-19 really kind of kicked in exactly when we started some of our pilots in hospitals. The impact we have is we working a lot with everything around operations. So all the elective operations were canceled and only urgent one happened. So it gave us an opportunity to do two things. One is to deepen our relationship within the hospital administration and the sterilization department where we are focusing on, because they had a less load of cases, which allow us to have a little bit more of their time. And then the second is to be able to help them prepare for the day after that we start seeing these days, where all the other type of surgery that are not non-urgent are picking up, and there is a backlog of 3 months of. So everything around efficiency, around making sure that the instruments are clean and sterilized correctly and all that become a bottleneck for them, and we are trying to help them with that. But to tell you that COVID-19 was good for business, I would not go and say that. I think it's been a very, very challenging time to get enough face time with the relevant people that were busy with things that deprioritize your activity with them. But on the other hand, I think that digital health, technology, communication in health really got an amazing boost out of it, because there was a pull from the industry, pull from the hospitals, instead of us trying to convince them that they need that they need to step into the future.
Very interesting.
Yeah, for us, also, some good and bad. The bad was the clinics that we work with. The number of patients they are seeing went down 80%. So for them, it means two things. One is they were scrambling to, really get their business in shape, and they had less time for us. They were less busy with patients, but they had other issues to deal with. On the other hand, the solution we provide is really what the patient wants right now, because many of the patients don't want to go or can't go to an actual physical therapist, and so a program to do it online became so much more attractive. So on one hand, the number of patients that, and then we also kind of launched the paid service about 6 months ago. And so it kind of hit us like months 3 or 4. And so as we saw the number of invited patients to the program drop down significantly, but actually the registration rate went way up. So essentially we saw, small growth overall in the time, but the activity on the site went way up because the patient, I think, have taken it even more serious than before. And and so that's and as Itai said, I think the industry understands that this is kind of the future of medicine, where you certainly want to see the therapist in some cases, but in many cases you don't, and in many cases you can't. And so having a solution, a good solution that is vetted, that you can give your patient a good source of physical therapy that they can do at home is really important.
Very cool.
Yeah, and I would fully agree here that industry right now is getting really big boost. I mean, telehealth, remote patient monitoring, and so on, and really many professionals starting to want this, instead of us previously were pushing them to try telemedicine and remote monitoring. So, but on the other hand, for us, for our startup, as it is really early stage startup right now, and we are looking for pre-seed investments. It was not a good timing, of course, because all investments, funding, everything were frozen for a while, and even with understanding importance of such projects right now, all potential investors just paused all activities for a while, and we are a bit of struggling, but still, on the other hand, we see that interest for telehealth, for remote monitoring is really growing, and as soon as all the fundings will be released, we're pretty sure that fundings will be spread towards digital health startups. So yeah, just waiting, hopefully months more to get next round.
Sure. You all speak about adoption of the technology and the platforms right now. Obviously, COVID has amplified and sped that up, that forced the adoption of telemedicine and telehealth platforms into the industry. What do you guys think could further help the adoption of digital health platforms? And what have you done as a company to kind of help solve these issues and further the adoption of your platforms?
Yeah, I can speak to that.
And you have a very interesting platform, given your users are mainly 55 and up, so the adoption of technology in that group in and of itself can be a challenge too, right?
Yeah, I guess there's two ways to look at adoption. One is adoption among patients, and another is adoption among the health establishment, the doctors, etc. So, we started, like many services, actually running our service directly to consumers. And unfortunately, as many learned, consumers don't like to pay for healthcare, at least not in the United States, because they assume it's covered by insurance. And so, we didn't get a lot of adoption there. So we actually went ahead and kind of, provided a service for free for a few months just to prove that it actually, to test it and to make sure that it works. And that worked very well. And, I think that the thing is that, people like to use, many people love to use PT at their home. Some people like to go to physical therapies, some people don't. And the convenience of having that at home and the fact that you have an app that reminds you every day that you have to do the work, you have a PT that you send a message 24/7 and all that, that's really, people love that. And so the adoption within patient, as long as they didn't have to pay for it, was great. And so then the question is how you get them to pay for it. And, there are several companies that compete with us and they went to large employers. And so the employer pays for that. We chose to go to medical clinics. So the clinics don't pay for that. In fact, it's a revenue service center for them. But when a doctor actually recommends the program to a patient, the adherence rate is significantly higher. 30 times. If we get, when we try to market directly to consumer, we got 0.5% adoption. Through clinic, we're getting 25% adoption. It's night and day when a doctor tells you to do something. And so we actually proving that people are paying $95 a month from their own pocket. Insurance doesn't cover it yet. And they stay 3-4 months on the program on average. Some stay less, some stay more, but this is what they do. And so the trick was to get to a clinic, and that's difficult. Getting into the healthcare establishment is, I guess the story is to get there, it's like pulling teeth. Once you're there, it's much easier. And so, we started with a couple of clinics, and we're getting actually good adoption within not all the doctors, but several of the doctors, and that's enough to generate, actually hundreds of, a typical doctor sees about 1,000 patients a year, so that's a lot of patients. And so if we're getting at least 2-3 doctors, that's several thousand patients a year, and so that's volume to start. It's good, and now that we kind of establish ourselves, that's a lot easier to go to the next clinic and get them to adopt. And you also talk to kind of people that are leading in the industry. So we are lucky to have a couple of the leading physicians in the industry that actually help us kind of write the program. And the clinic is one of the clinics that runs it, so that helps. They have very great reputation in the industry. It's Dr. Jeff and Joel Saul. Jeff was the president of NAS, which is the National Association of Spine Physicians in the U.S. And so that's very helpful.
Very interesting. As you talk about adoption on both sides, regarding the platform, are there any key features that you found that help increase the patient engagement?
Yeah, it's interesting. So one of the things, of course, to make it, everything needs to be mobile. We actually don't have an app. It's a browser based. So the nice thing is you don't have to download anything, but it's available on your cell phone. Most people use it on their cell phone. Some people use it on an iPad. Very few people use it actually on a computer. So that, I think, is one thing that helps. The second thing is that you want to actually have a kind of a daily habit. You want to form a daily habit. And one of the things that came to us, a few months into the program, we said, how do we establish a daily habit and something that the patient really will be interested in? And, the patient also needs to be motivated for the exercises to be effective. You actually have to do them every day. And also, so there's a match there somewhere. So what we did is we put a simple questionnaire that we email each of the patient every day, a questionnaire that, that you report your own daily progress to the coach. And so the question is, there's a list of all the exercises that were assigned to you. You have to click on each one that you've done. Then you say how much time did you spend, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, 60 minutes or more. And then we put some healthy lifestyle question, like how many hours of sleep you had, how many glasses of water and vegetables to encourage people to have a healthy diet. And I think how many minutes of aerobic exercise have you done, like walking, biking, etc. And people love that. I mean, once we put that questionnaire on, our engagement more than doubled, per patient per day. And once they answer the questionnaire, then they will message the coach, and they'll do more things in addition to that. And it forms, and many of the patients answer the questionnaire, most of the patients answer the questionnaire, 5-6 days a week. So essentially, they get used to do it every day. And I'm also lucky to have, lucky quote unquote, to have back pain. So I've been a patient of the program myself, and I love the daily questionnaire. It's pretty funny because I invented it, but I still answer it every day religiously.
That's great. Do you find challenges measuring your patient's progress versus measuring progress offline? Like if they were in person or?
Oh, it's much, measuring progress online is much, much better than measuring progress offline. I think that's a huge advantage of all those digital health platforms. Because when you measure progress offline, once you record this, it's getting mangled and everybody does their own measurements. So it's not, everybody does it differently. Online, everything is the same. So we have questionnaire to measure, your pain level. We have questionnaire, which is, we use standard questionnaire, like it's a questionnaire called the PEG. There's a questionnaire to measure your function level, how much can you walk without pain, how much can you stand without pain, how much can you sit, etc., called OSWA-3. And then we have the daily progress. So we have good measurement of health progress, and we have good measurement of actually what you did with the program. And we can actually show it to the doctor. We're now actually developing like a bird view of the doctor that shows, improvement of health over time, over several measurements, the pain level, the function level, and then, how is that related to actually using the program? How many exercise points, we give you points on your daily questionnaire. And so we can measure how many points you have, and also how many times you interacted with the program, how many times you see videos, and correlate it to health improvement. In fact, we just did the data analysis this last week. I got a summer student to do that for me. And there's a very strong correlation between, using the program and your health improvement. The more you use the program, the more your health improves. And the top 20% that use the program improve so much more than the bottom 20%. It's really staggering. So yeah, and I think this is the future of digital health, which, with regular health, it's very hard to measure outcomes. You have paper questionnaire that are answered incorrectly, that are not consistent. Every facility has their own different questionnaire, and then it goes to the EMR system, and somebody keyed it wrongly, and each EMR has it differently, and to pull it together, it's very hard. Here, everybody gets the same questionnaire, they answer it the same way, and you can compare, everything to everything. And you can keep track of that and improve over time. So, the vision here that, so we have this thing called the health score. So essentially we take the pain questionnaire, and we give you a percentage in the population. So we can say, your pain level or your health level, you are 50%, or you are 75%, or you are 92%. And so we can measure that progress relatively to the population, which is, like they do IQ tests. They don't give you on IQ tests or SAT or something like that. They don't tell you you did 50. What does that mean? They give you, percentage in the population. That's meaningful. Same thing with pain scores. You know, you want to give percentage in the population, just a number doesn't. And then you can measure and you can say, oh, I know exactly what this patient did. I know exactly what the exercise did. I know how much time they did it. So, you know, right now you go to the physician and you say, oh, I have this back pain. What should I do? And he says, oh, you might want to try this or you might want to try that. What does it mean you want to try something? Don't you know to tell me what I need to do? You know, because they don't. You know, they don't really know how much. We can say, hey, you have to do exercise A, B, and C. You have to do them for 30 minutes a day for 3 months, and you will improve on average 30% from where you are now, or 29.7%. Now that's, to me, you know, making health more of a science than kind of a, you know, what it is today. And I think this is really what the future of healthcare, and the fact that you can have everything digital, give you all the data to improve, which today is very hard to do.
Thank you. I tell you, the adoption of your platform is more on the medical centers and clinics and things like that, correct? So how do you find those challenges and driving the adoption on that side?
Well, it's the challenges here is that you're working with basically multiple buyers. You have people that are going to work with your technology, the technicians in the OR, the technicians in the sterilization department, physicians, surgeons, and stuff like that. But on the other hand, you have administration and other people that live within Excel that kind of looking at a 2 or sometimes even 5-year purchase plans, right, or budgeting cycles. So the challenge is to show that you are useful and to show that it makes sense to have you because you are saving lives, you're saving costs, and to help educate this market about the current challenges they're facing that they don't even know how to measure. So, for example, one of the reasons we chose to look into that, as I said in the beginning, we're looking to empower people. So we are focusing on industries where there is a lot of human manual tasks, but also the cost of mistake is high. So not just things that are robots can replace humans, is where human needs to make a decision, and if they're making the wrong decision or doing a mistake, the costs are high. So in healthcare, especially around surgery preparation, the costs are very high if you make a mistake. So one of the things we were looking at is to help hospital measure the current waste they have around the sterilization process. And the experts in the industry are kind of arguing whether it's a $50 billion or $100 billion a year waste in this industry that is caused only by the lack of tracking of medical instruments, the preparation of instruments for surgery that are never get used and just get processed again and again, and for lost instruments. So we are looking at ways to not just to educate them about how to do better health, it's also how to do better logistics. So the challenges we have is that different people have different challenges or different priorities, and we are trying to navigate and to bring information, data analytics to everyone in this chain to make sure that they value what we do. Because otherwise, we as people who live in the US pay very high premium for healthcare. And most of that money is going actually for administration. It's not going for the doctors or for the medical team.
Right.
Yeah.
How did you choose the use cases to develop your solution for? It seems like there are a lot of applications you can use your platform for. So how did you choose the use cases?
So I can double down on that. Like I said, we were looking for things that have a high cost of error. So we were looking at things from agriculture to manufacturing, remote assist, things that have to do with spatial awareness, things around you, because we are dealing with understanding a 3D environment and what does it mean, and kind of a state machine of the real world. And we got drawn into medical because of the two factors. One, it's a good karma project to help to save people, and the other, the financial challenges there are, or potential is very high. So we were looking for things that will allow our technology to bring the most impact. we can, easily use the technology to track if someone is, trying to do shoplifting, or how much inventory you still have on your shelf, or help you do an inventory check at a hardware store. All of these things that has to do with understanding the environment and counting and doing logic on it is something we can do, but we were looking for something more impactful, and we found that in healthcare.
Very interesting. And how did you prioritize the feature development? As I'm sure you were building a MVP and figuring out the criteria for that. Can you talk about a little bit the feature development process?
Yeah, so we were very fortunate to work with Stanford Children's Hospital very closely. So they hosted us, and we basically shadowed their team in the dungeons, in the basements, in the ORs, and really saw how the workflow goes and what are the pain points and what pain point can be replaced or augmented with technology. So we really focus on the humans in this process. Many IT solutions are focusing more of the integration part or kind of the IT side of things. We were focusing more of the end user. So we managed to build an experience that is either running on mobile phones or on their PC that's already in workstation, and some other unique hardware we developed to allow them to do their job better, faster, and safer. And when we got their buy-in, and then they talked to their bosses and they saw that there is a better trackability of things, better quality of work, then it started to be known in the different layers of the organization. I cannot tell you that everyone cared because they couldn't measure a lot of the things that we were improving. So one of the key challenges we had is to start to bringing measurable metrics that actually can be monitored along a period of time. What's good about healthcare, especially if you're working in hospitals or if you're working with a network of hospitals, is that the volume of work is really high. We're talking about hundreds of surgeries a day. So if you start tracking and show for 30 days that you can help them do something, you have a data set of like 3,000 surgeries that you can start mining the data and to see how did you move the needle. So it's all about be able to gauge and to understand what to measure and then how to present it, because many of the hospitals and administration that we've been working with are not coming from the data scientist side, they're not coming from technology side. They were coming from the healthcare. They used to be a nurse or a technician or a doctor, and now they're doing something in the administration, and they don't have the experience from the angle that we do. They have so much else that they bring into the job, but some of the analytics and these type of things that we as engineers kind of live and die by are a bit foreign. So we are educating them how that's going to help them make better decisions, reduce costs, and also improve revenue.
Very interesting. What were some of your technological challenges as you faced when building your platform? I'm sure they were plenty.
No, it's easy. Everyone can do it. We are focusing on things that has to do with sensoring, with spatial understanding. So we chose computer vision as our main sensor. And for that, we need to develop a technology that allow us to recognize different surgical tools that have very little difference between them. And there could be a little bit of a shape, a little bit of a size. Also, these tools are mostly metal, which means that when you look at it in an OR or in a sterilization department, it's a very shiny metal object that looks like another 20 of these that are lying on the table. So to be able to identify the state and the instrument itself on a shiny object when the object is shiny itself, it's a very hard computer vision problem, which also we believe is kind of one of our advantages. I call it the Tesla approach. We built the Roadster first. We built the most difficult car before we went back in to build a sedan. So we build a computer vision model that is rely on multiple attributes that could be understood across domains. For example, materials, we can identify if an object is from metal, from wood, from plastic, and also different models for colors or for size or for shape. And when we put it all together, we have a very high accuracy of recognizing different objects. So our challenge was to build a computer vision catalog of models that could recognize a very large set of instruments or objects. And we're talking about between 30,000 to 100,000 different thingies in a hospital. So be able to do that, that's kind of a very big challenge, because people assume computer vision exists because they saw an example of taking a photo of a cat and recognize what breed it is, or that it's not a dog. But when you get into the real world that is more messy in terms of how do you take the photo of things going in live, there is different lighting, different backgrounds, it's a bit more challenging than doing kind of animal recognition or doing industrial computer vision based on, you know, a conveyor belt or stuff like that, because the environment is very, very dynamic.
Oh, very cool. Very interesting. Vlad, you're in a different segment, being in the mental health arena. Talk to us, what trends and technologies are you seeing that defining the mental health development industry, mental health apps and things like that?
Yeah, so currently mental health is going behind many other industries, because especially in digital health trends. So right now, when we are speaking with psychiatrists, when we're speaking with bipolar patients, they just going crazy about idea of continuous monitoring, about some AI-powered alerts, and using their like wearables to really get real data, not subjective data, but real data, and to track history throughout entire life. And basically to have this in electronic record, because nowadays everyone is using just subjective data. For instance, when patient comes to the doctor once in a while, like once per month, doctor has questionnaire, and basically doctor tries to identify any problems based on responses, patient responses. But when we talk about people with mental health disorders, responses might be irrelevant, and understanding of the current situation and self-awareness of such patient might be challenged. So we propose completely different solution here. So basically, doctor sees everything from real data. He doesn't need to ask how well do you sleep during last week. He sees everything, and sleep quality and sleep duration. To get at least solutions like this, and especially with this COVID-19 outbreak, everyone understood that this is something essential, and from time to time, patient just cannot go to the doctor during months, and it might be critical for the patient to not get at least monitoring. I don't say treatment, but at least monitoring of critical situations. So yeah, really mental health industry is really going behind, I don't know, maybe like 10 or dozen years behind. And yeah.
What kind of other challenges are you facing with the adoption of your platform, challenges with the users, and maybe what kind of customer feedback you're getting so far?
Yeah, so we don't have real customers yet. We just finished alpha testing, and we already have some feedback from potential customers, and basically we have like 15 or 20 bipolar patients, friends of our platform already, and they're helping us to get system better, to improve functionality and to add required functionality there. And on the other hand, we work with a few psychiatrists, leading psychiatrists of our Dnipro region, and we also get feedback from them. So far, feedback is quite positive, and everyone is waiting while when we start beta testing. From user feedback, everyone just waiting and hoping that it will work. And speaking of challenges, we do have challenges, of course. So first of all, we face that wearable devices that we were going to use are not they don't have seamless integration with Google and with Apple platforms. So from time to time, different devices just don't provide data, one or another type of data to these generic platforms. So right now we solving this issue, and probably we will go into some direct communication on lower level with different devices. It will be longer, more difficult, but still to get precise and full data from wearable devices, we probably will need to go this way. And on the other hand, we have our medical model that we developed with psychiatrists, and we calculate, as Ofer told regarding his platform, we also calculate health score, mental health score, and this health score is based on different triggers, like when patient sleeps no more than 6 hours a day during last 3 days. This is a big downside for patients with bipolar disorder, and it might lead to severe maniac phase, or it can indicate that this phase is already starting. So we adding scores to maniac phase, and so on and so forth. So we have set of rules and set of triggers to apply these rules. And this model, we have this model just algorithm and calculated model, but we will need pretty long testing and adjusting this model before we can really start selling the software. So we need to go pretty long path of testing and adjusting our model, and afterwards we are going to add deep learning algorithms that will improve this basic model, because not all like dependencies, not all triggers we can identify by ourselves, but when we will have big data, when we will have many patients, so then we can teach deep learning algorithms to get even better understanding of patients' mental state. So this is like upcoming challenge. We didn't get there yet, but this is something maybe in a year or so.
A question from the audience is, how do you evaluate sleep, as you were just talking about that?
Sorry, how we
How do you-
evaluate?
How do you evaluate sleep? You were just talking about the patient's 6 hours.
Yeah. So sleep, basically we get data from any, I would say most of the, not any, but most of the wearable devices, Apple Watch, Fitbit, Xiaomi Mi Band, and so on. And all these devices have sleep analysis. So these devices detect sleep duration and phases of sleep, deep sleep and fast sleep. So based on this data, we do sleep analysis. And here we have one more tricky part. Every single person has different need in sleep. Basically, different habits. Someone needs to sleep to feel well, like 9 hours a day. Someone can sleep 6 hours a day and be in a good shape. I mean, not once, but during a long time. So we cannot say that 8 hours is normal sleep duration, and everything that is less is not normal and needs to be improved. So we track behavior and parameters individually, and we compare with average patient values. So let's say average sleep duration per last 2 weeks for myself was 7 hours. And this is my norm. And all data that we will evaluate and compare, we will compare with just my average parameters. So this is how we do this.
What wearables are you working with? What wearable devices?
Yeah, as I said, we work with right now with all wearables that are connected to Google Health or Apple Health systems, and these are most of wearable devices of wristbands and smartwatches that we have on the market. Some of them, as we see right now, just do not synchronize correctly with Google Fit or Apple Health. So we are going to improve this part, but still we need to work with most of the devices, because one of the goals not to change people habits, but try to use devices that they already using and wearing in normal life.
Are you able to, a question from the audience, are you able to detect any emotional dysregulation using the wearables?
Well, there are some special wearables that claim that they can detect emotions. It's not pretty stable, this emotion detection, and devices are pretty rare. So as we want to work with most of the devices, we do not detect emotions from wearable. Basically, most of devices do not have such sensors. But we try to get emotions and emotional state from mobile phone usage. So we install as one of the trackers, we install our custom keyboard to mobile phone, with the mobile application. And this custom keyboard tracks everything that patient typing in. We do not send data to server, but we analyze emotional tone of the messages. So we can see average emotional tone of what patient typing during the day. This is one parameter. And another parameter, we have quick daily survey. And basically this survey just pops up in notification bar and has 5 different smile icons from really sad to smiling face. And user just on daily basis clicks on one of these icons to track his emotional state today. And this is daily survey that we have for user.
You should look at, remember MoodSpin from 2010. It was basically a self-tracker of moods, not on a daily basis, but on a like whenever you felt a different mood, you could report it. But we can talk about it offline. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. But do you think are there any technical obstacles that slow down or even prevent mental health solutions from booming?
Well, so mental health solutions, I would split them into a few categories. So basically, telehealth might be booming already, and I would say that it gradually will be the case. Not quick enough because we need to change entire industry, and to get to clinics, such applications need to need to have many compliance, like HIPAA compliance, and be really secured and integrated with EMR and so on. So pretty big chunk of regulations. I think this is not an obstacle, but it's one difficult point to overcome. And we have digital monitoring, like in Bakery. And for digital monitoring, so the thing that we faced with is on the market, we have a lot of different devices, like fitness trackers that can track some basic health parameters. But such devices are not medical devices, and data from these devices might be really inconsistent. So we cannot rely on such measurements to do some diagnostics. We can just provide this data to doctors, and doctors will decide based on data what to do. So it's not like fully automatic remote diagnostic. And on the other hand, we have specific medical devices. So patient can buy and wear medical devices to have precise monitoring and diagnostics. But such medical devices are rare, difficult to buy, and not really cheap devices. So we, as Bakery platform, we wouldn't rely on that all patients will wear such medical devices, even though this would be really good, and this would allow us to rely on data. But yeah, I don't think that this is the case for future. So basically, we need to leverage existing technologies, and we have most of the required technologies right now in the market. So we need to leverage them and find a way how to use for digital health in mental health.
Well, as you talk about technologies, I'll ask all of you. And actually, before I ask, if there's any participants who have any questions, feel free to drop them into the chat and we will answer them. But Vlad, as you talk about technologies, and Ofer and Itai, for you, what technologies do you think will define the future of MedTech?
Well, so for me, I would say that IoT and basically in medicine and digital health, there is new term IoMT, Internet of Medical Things, and this is one of technology types that is useful, and of course AR, VR for first of all for learning systems and for systems like telesurgery and teleoperations, I would say. AI, of course, and deep learning on top of big data. Yeah, and I think these are main technologies that I can see. Yeah, Ofer, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to be really simple on this, and the most amazing technology we all have is our cell phone, our smartphone.
Yeah.
And that's where you go on the streets where people they're not looking at the street, unfortunately. They're looking at a cell phone, and then the cars run them down. So they're obviously there. And so I think a lot of things are moving to your cell phone, and health should be no exception. And again, that's a big promise, because you can actually get a lot of your health care from your cell phone, and also your cell phone. And then, as other people said here, your smart watch can give you a lot of information as a patient to what to do, and also transmit back. So, right now we ask the patients how much did they walk and how much did they sleep, but we can get it from a smartphone. I think you want to do probably both. Some people like to sleep with the device that tracks their sleep, and other people don't. And so you want to, for those who do, you want to make sure that you get the data. And for those who don't, you probably should just ask them. And in general, if you ask all patients and you have also the data, you can start evaluate also how accurate people's answers are. And so to me, again, the most important technologies are, giving patient treatment on their cell phone, getting data from, both from the phone and then from your wristwatch. And then what do you do then with the data? You have to then employ machine learning to figure out, how to make the data useful. For instance, as it pertains to what we do, physical therapy, if a patient, if a lot of patients do certain exercise and it really helps them improve their health quickly, then that's something that can be very useful. If you identify some pattern of behavior, if I do this for the patient, they'll do more of the exercises and they'll get healthier faster. That's another way. So there's a lot of once everything is digitized, then you have a lot of healthcare data that is sorely missing today. And so having good way of doing data analysis is really key. And all those technologies today exist. It's just a matter of adoption, and then of having people look at the data and making it useful for patients.
Itai, any thoughts?
Oh, I just would like to build on these two things, especially on offers. I think the best thing is it's not a technology challenge, it's a human challenge right now. The technology exists. It's a matter of usage, building the right technology for the right use case and adoption. But also we have a generational gaps. We have digital native workers that used to get a specific type of experience through the different applications they've been consuming on their phone or different. And we have a more conservative or less geeky, techie people that's more concerned about safety or their privacy and so forth, that are reluctant of doing things. So I think we are kind of right now in a shift where there is a pull from the patients and from the people working in healthcare to use more technology because of the limitation of physical limitation of to Corona and other things. So I really believe that the biggest thing that Corona actually did for us is a change of mindset in the medical establishment of the ability of how technology can help them run their business and really help patients. And for patients is the ability to say, I can seek for medical help and stuff like that, but I don't need to go to the doctor for that. I can actually get it in different venues, and it becomes almost like a preference right now. Is it more risky for me to go to the doctor, or is it better for me? So I think we managed to change the equation a little bit right now. And that's actually give us a lot of encouragement that the things that we are working on right now are becoming more and more useful for the next generation.
Very cool. Itai, as you're in a lot of the medical facilities and clinics. What do you feel is the most important part to focus on? I know we have some entrepreneurs on the call and some startups. When implementing a digital solution in the clinics and medical facilities, do you focus more on the solution, the team, the processes, maybe the technology itself? Where's a good place to focus?
It really depends on what you're trying to do. Integration to EMRs and other system of records is critical for them to be able to meet the standards that they need to. But also it's about figure out where are the pain points that they're willing to pay for. Are you solving a thing that can save money, or are you solving a thing that can make them more money? So I think it's very important when you come to this type of clinics is to be able to understand their different needs. And not all the time the technology is a solution. Sometimes it's a process. And let me tell you that changing a process is much harder than implementing a new technology. It's a highly regulated environment. You have, for example, organization unions of nurses or technicians that have specific rules that need to apply by. You have the HIPAA compliance. So if you're dealing with information about patients, you have to deal with it a certain way. So it's a highly regulated environment, but the reach and the impact of it, it's so high. So it's really still making it very attractive for entrepreneurs to try to figure it out. Because as soon as you do, you're going to have your Oprah moment, as we call it, where if only Kaiser will adopt it, if only this big network of healthcare will adopt it, then you find yourself in everywhere. So this is kind of the carrot that we all see dangling in front of our face when we are grinding our work through the, through the lower level of administration in hospitals.
And that's good stuff. Ofer, your solution has been included as an option in treatment plan of some clinics. Can you share with us about your collaborations and maybe some tips on making it successful?
Yeah, so, as I mentioned before, we have several clinics actually referring, all their patients to this. And so what they do is essentially they do it in two ways. One is before the doctor sees the patient, they send them to our questionnaire, because it's a very detailed questionnaire that actually replacing the current paper questionnaire that the clinic has. So the doctor can see that, and all that is kind of free part of the service. And then once the doctor sees the patient, they can determine whether they need physical therapy or not. And if they do, they invite them to a program, and then the patient can decide to join and pay the fee or not. If they don't, they still have the questionnaire there. They can look at it, they can see the health score, and they can update the questionnaire every time they see the doctor or whenever they want. And of course, if they register to the program, they get the physical therapists and all that. And you know, I think that there were two things to work with the clinic. One is to make sure that it's useful for them, and then it's very easy for them to adopt. And so there's really two things that make it useful to them. One is they get this free questionnaire for all the patients, and they also can track outcome. And so they can track if the patient actually improve over time or not. And this is very useful for them for several insurances. Now, they have the data, they can share it or not. So if the data is great for them, then they share it. If the data is, you know, not so great, they don't have to share it. But you know, initially I didn't think there will be a big incentive, but actually a lot of the doctors want it, because we probably typically work with more of the leading edge kind of doctors, or the doctors that feel very good about their practice. And so those usually are the ones that do better. And so they want to see that outcome. So that's one thing. And the second thing is that, again, as I mentioned before, there is a shared revenue. So we charge a fee for the service. Everything above that goes to the clinic. And so it's not a huge revenue source for them right now, but as it gets covered by insurance, it can become pretty significant. And so, you know, having this not only free for the clinic, but actually the revenue source, I think is also very helpful to kind of work with them.
Sure.
Hope this answered the question.
You did. What about you, Vlad, from the mental health side, working with medical facilities and mental health specialists? How are you finding those interactions?
Again, as Ofer said, we also work with just guys from mental health industry that are on the edge. So with those who are willing to adopt new technologies and who really want to change the way they working right now and improve their methods. So such professionals are really excited about opportunities that technologies can bring to them, and really looking forward for such technologies coming to their lives. But there are a lot of other professionals that used to work with existing tools and methods and do not see so far any point to go into technologies and to adopt any new method that's basically not required by ministry, by I don't know, administration of the clinics and so on. So our strategy is to work with such early adopters and to collect use cases and good feedbacks. And after that, the strategy is to go to professional communities, to conferences, and basically to advertise the platform and new approaches there. So yeah, really, we want to go from such communities. So basically, to make technologies standard solution for healthcare.
Excellent. You know, we're talking about technological challenges and things of that nature. Going to the core concept of your development team and setting that up and actually building the technology, how did each of you go about setting up your development teams, gathering your developers, and getting that foundation going? Itai, would you like to start?
Yeah, so we've been working in a way that we have a lot of the product and the marketing activities done in the US where the market is, and our team is distributed. So the development team, we found the best people for the job, not based in the US. And we basically focusing on talent that, for example, computer vision and AI that is very strong in the Silicon Valley, where we're based, versus development, NetOps, big data and stuff like that, that is very good elsewhere as well. So we build a team that have a small but brave group of people that can handle different tasks very dynamically, but also be able to leverage really high-end capabilities around computer vision and AI that is unique to the Silicon Valley.
Cool. Some unique challenges in your work there. Ofer, how about you? How did you go about setting up your development teams, and any tips for the people on the call?
Yeah, so we actually started doing, we're based in the Silicon Valley as well. We started development here in the Silicon Valley, and we'd actually design team in, a visual design team that was based in San Francisco, but was actually from Italy, that still serves us. Eventually it became way too expensive to do it here, and we were looking for, more economical way to do it, and we partnered with Archer. This was, I think, 2.5 years ago or more. And in fact, we have a small team with Archer, but it's very good. And, I think the quality of the new engineers is very, very high. We had some transition in the team where, not everybody that worked for us was great, and we had to replace them. But eventually we settled on a few people that are very, very strong, and they've been serving us extremely well. So again, we have, most of the operation of the company in the Silicon Valley, but the visual designers are in Italy, and the developers are in, the Ukraine and Russia under Archer, and that has been working very well for us.
Brian, you're muted.
Thank you, Vlad. What about you as you sort of building your development team?
Yeah, so we are lucky to be located in Ukraine. So a lot of strong engineers here around, and of course we're using this advantage at full scale. So we have distributed team here in Ukraine, and basically this team, as startup, we don't need a big team. So as Itai and Ofer said, we also have a small but brave team, and basically we had just one replacement so far, and we formed pretty strong expertise within the team, and yeah, moving with these developers.
Excellent. Well, as we start to wind down our webinar, which has been great, you guys have been very informative, a lot of great information here. Let me ask the audience if anybody has any questions as we start to wind down. And if not, perhaps each of you would like to share some parting thoughts on, where we are, the digitalization of healthcare with COVID, and the future of telehealth and med platforms. It doesn't seem like we have any questions coming in. So would you guys like to take a stab at just summing up a little bit what you see as the digitalization now, and the last tips to the companies that are getting involved and trying to penetrate the market and build great new and innovative things?
Well, I think that we see a continuous trend or vector where computing costs go down, and that allows a lot of AI and computer vision and all kind of big data analysis to happen in a very low cost. So it's not about the technology, and I totally agree with Ofer that it's about the implementation and where do you apply that technology. So the ability for us right now to create an impactful product is not a technology risk. It's more of a market fit and understanding of the needs and the way the purchase cycle happens in these type of facilities or with our audience. So for the startup out there, you know, all the gray hair here is for product market fit. It's not from technology challenges. This is where from the technology challenges are. So make sure that you know what you're doing and there is a demand for it, and there's someone who with a paycheck or you know a checkbook that can pay for that. And as for the technologies, there is tons of stuff that is currently open source. The big platforms of Amazon, Google, Facebook, Apple are fighting for your attention for using their computing power. So it was never a better time to take advantage of that and build some amazing products on top of open source and these type of platforms.
Great.
Yeah, I'll repeat what I said before. One of the things that this was also, I heard it from several big CEOs of you know, of very large Fortune 500 companies, you know, talking to healthcare conferences from all places. And, you know, again, the message was very, very simple, and I think it resonates with me, and I think it should resonate with everybody, that, you know, everybody is on their cell phones, and you want to serve the patients where they are, and they are on their cell phones. So, you know, when you want to serve the patient, you want to serve them on their cell phones. And I think if you do a good job in that, there's big reward. And part of it is that it's all digitized. And so you have lots of data that then you can analyze and figure out what really works and what doesn't, and improve health in a way that was not possible before. Because today, you know, most health is not keeping outcomes. And so when people have surgery, for instance, people don't know what happened. You know, there's no registrar that you can look at all surgeries that we're giving. Now, in the US, there's about 50 million surgeries every year. There's very little data of what happened to those patients. Not to mention anything else. Once all of that information is kept on digitally and can be shared, of course anonymously, you don't want to hurt the privacy, then you actually can know what works and what doesn't, and avoid a lot of, you know, unnecessary treatments, costly, and also treatment that actually damage the patients, and instead, you know, have treatment that actually help the patients be better. And so I think both the patients wants to be treated where they are on their cell phones, and once we do that, there's a big promise to actually figure out what works and what doesn't, and give people the right treatment.
Great.
Yeah, and speaking with like on our stage right now, with many VCs, private investors, and accelerators, we see that digital health and telehealth and all related sub-industries are in trend right now, and really in top 5 industries for investments, and this trend basically continue for 5 or 7 last years. And this area is really important. I mean, from life perspective, and it's not like another e-commerce solution. We talking about improving life quality, about in some cases saving life. So it's not only about money, it's about really big impact to people life. And this industry also really like old-fashioned, and it wants and needs the changes. So as I said, we have all the technologies right now already in place. We don't need to invent anything, but we need to find product market fit for industries, for technologies, and just find this right spot. Yeah, huge potential here in medical industries, and all investors are waiting for such solutions and such startups to raise. So, yep.
Great. Gentlemen, this was an excellent conversation today. I think a lot of great information came out of it. I would say to everybody that's on the call, if you'd like to reach out to anybody who's been speaking, feel free to drop us a note. We will connect you. If anybody on the call is interested in speaking to Archer Software about what you're currently doing with your business, whether it's business validation, whether it's looking at what you need to build an MVP, whether it's looking at market adoption, we're here to help you. We're offering some complimentary sessions with our analysts and consulting team, so we can speak to you about what you're trying to do and how to best achieve those goals. Because at the end of the day, we're here to help you and to continue to drive innovation and technical adoption in the healthcare industry. So again, we want to thank everybody for joining the call, and thank our 3 excellent speakers for sharing insights, experience, and expertise. And wish everybody a wonderful day. Stay safe and stay happy and healthy. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and we'll connect you.